Hey guys, welcome back to Heart Breathings. I have a juicy topic for you here today because everybody in the publishing space seems to be talking a lot about rapid release. So today we're going to talk about, should you rapid release your books? Is this a valuable plan or a viable plan for you in 2020 and moving forward? And most importantly, what are the dangers of rapid release? So let's get started. So rapid release when it comes to indie publishing is kind of a buzz term lately that a lot of people are talking about. And what it means when you're talking about rapid release is rapidly releasing your books, especially books in a series, one after the other after the other. Now, I've talked about this on my channel a little bit before, that one of the ways that I found success all the way back in 2010 was by essentially rapid releasing the first 3 books in my Shadow Demon saga, which back then was called the Peachful High Demons series. I had a release in October, another release mid-December, and then a release in February. So it was about 6 to 8 weeks between releases. After that, I started spreading things out a little bit because the books got longer, the world got more intense, and it just became harder or more difficult to write those books. So then I started spreading them out several months, if not a year, between them. So this strategy, even though I didn't know it was a strategy at the time, worked really well to launch my career. And all the way back since the beginning of indie publishing in ebook form, this has been a really great way to launch your career and to launch a series. In fact, Lilliana Nirvana, who is a New York Times and USA Today best-selling author, started kind of her own thing that at one point was called Lilliana Nirvana, where she actually pre-wrote, I believe it was 5 books, and released them all on the same day or really close within each other. Now, I could probably go Google it and try to find it, but basically what you need to know is she wrote several books, held them back, and then rapidly released them, either dropping them all on the same day or like really close together thereafter. Then what she also did, which was really smart, is she actually held one book back. So if she released all 5, then she had a 6th book actually ready to go, so that when she dropped the 5th book, she could be promoting book 6 that was already written and secretly in the back end writing book 7. So that really worked well for her. And then after that huge drop where she made a big splash in the world of self-publishing, she was kind of launched as a career and a successful author from then on. And she was able to set up a schedule for herself that was sustainable, where she was always kind of like one book ahead for a long time, or, able to write that next book and publish it before, too many months had gone by. And that worked extremely well. A lot of people over the last several years have taken this to heart and said, okay, what I'm going to do is Lilliana Nirvana, or, rapid releasing, where I'm going to hold books back. I'm going to pre-write them. I'm going to hold them back. And then I'm going to rapid release them, either by launching all of those 5 books or whatever books on the same day, or putting them out a week apart, or even a month apart, or whatever it's going to be. And everybody has kind of had different strategies with that, and there are varying levels of success with it. So that's basically rapid release. And I would say rapid release could mean anything back to back within, either from the same day to a week apart to a month apart, all the way out to probably 6 to 8 weeks apart is considered rapid release. Once you get to like 3 months apart, I would say people are no longer considering that rapid release. So typically right now, you're seeing this a lot in Amazon's Kindle Unlimited, which is their exclusivity program where you have to be all in on Amazon and you can't sell your books anywhere else. And then readers who have a Kindle Unlimited or KU subscription for, I believe, $10 a month can download your book for free and read it within that program. So a lot of people are doing this. Now, let's talk first about the pros. So right now, at least as we're sitting here in 2020, there is no doubt about it that rapid release is really good for the algorithms. And this goes for all of the vendors out there, not just Amazon, but like I said, you're seeing this a lot on Amazon because of the Kindle Unlimited program and the way those free books work and the algorithms work there. So basically, if you release a lot of books rapidly and you get readers to, catch on to it and read them, you start to gain momentum within the vendor itself. Meaning that because of how well your book is being read and how quickly you're getting books out there and how many people are seeing your book, you're building momentum on that platform really, really fast. And the more momentum you build and the faster you build that momentum, the more that vendor is going to surface your book to new readers. So for example, let's just take Amazon because this is where it's most popular. You release a new book in a series every 30 days in a 6-month period. So every 30 days you have a new release coming out in your, let's say, Werewolf Shifter series. So January 10th, February 10th, March 10th, you're launching a brand new book, which is rapid releasing them one after the other. Because you start to naturally build momentum with readers going, oh, there's another one, ooh, there's another one, you start to build up that momentum at the vendor as well. So that means when someone types in something like your keyword, like hot werewolf shifter, your book is going to show up more often in search, which means that new readers will find it more easily because you're sort of playing that algorithm. There's a lot more in depth there, and there are a lot more people more qualified to talk about that, like maybe David Gaughran or Mark Dawson or Chris Fox. Maybe could talk about that a little bit better than I am because I'm not a super math person, but basically all you need to know is the faster you release your books, typically the more momentum you'll gain because of the way the algorithms work and the way reader behavior works. So in short, one of the biggest pros is that if you release your books more quickly, many times you are likely to be discovered by newer readers faster. Another pro is that we are currently living in a society where people love to binge things. They love to binge read, they love to binge watch, they love to binge play, but basically readers really are enjoying binging series. The same way a whole season launches on Netflix in a day and you binge watch the entire season, a lot of readers want to find series that are like 5 or 6 books, big enough to sink your teeth into, and then they want to read them all really quickly. A lot of readers are losing their patience for, especially indie readers in particular, are losing their patience for series that don't have a release for 8 months or a year or a year and a half, because they want that book right now. And there are so many authors who are launching those books really, really quickly and either really writing fast or utilizing ghost writers to get their books out quickly that readers are starting to get impatient. And this is not all true of all readers, but it is true of especially Kindle Unlimited readers and other types of readers who are able to binge read a lot of books in a short period of time. So you would find a lot of favor with readers that are looking for their next fix, so to speak, because they're going to get your book right away and not have to wait for it. So that can be one of the pros, is that you're going to gain the favor of readers that enjoy binge reading a lot of content. Because you're coming out with books pretty rapidly, you're also staying on top of mind. So readers don't have time to forget you, essentially. You give them what they want, 30 days later, you give them another one, and they're constantly being reminded that, hey, this author is really good. I really enjoy this series. And you're not giving them a lot of time to forget about you. Because what happens in indie publishing, when you've got tons and tons of books to choose from, a reader will, like a series, they enjoy it. They've read the first 3 or 4 books. It's really great. It may not be the best thing they've ever read in their life, but they love it. But then there comes this big lull, like a year or 12, 14 months, 16 months in between books. And in that amount of time, they have moved on to other series, other authors, other things that they love. So by the time the next book comes out in this one series that they used to like, they've kind of moved on and they've forgotten about it. Plus, a lot of times readers are like, oh, do I really want to pick up that next book? Because then it might be another 2 years while I'm waiting. This is a big thing that's happened in my own career, is I started out with that kind of rapid release every couple of months. Then it got longer and longer between. And then a few years ago, I hit a really rough spot. I've talked about this a few times on my channel, so I won't go into it too much, where I was writing too many series and I couldn't really keep up. So I fell behind on a lot of my series, and a lot of readers just kind of fell off of my series because I wasn't getting those books out fast enough. So it is a very real danger when you put too much time in between books in a series, especially if your series was not that popular to begin with. Like, let's say you only had 10,000 readers, which really 10,000 readers is a lot. But if you only had 10,000 readers read through book 4 and then you take 2 years to get book 5 out, you're going to lose maybe potentially half of those readers. So the only audience you have for book 5 is 5,000 previous readers and whatever new readers you can bring into your series. Whereas if you had released that book 5 within, say, 3 or 4 months of book 4, you might have been able to retain 80, 90, even 100% of that readership. So taking a lot of time between, you can see readers drop off. So the pro of rapid releasing is that you get to hold on to those readers that you've already gained and keep them interested in your books. It's also a way to make a splash very quickly in your career. So let's say you're coming from nothing. If you put one book out there, a few people like it, but then boom, there's another book. Those people will begin talking about it and they'll say, oh, you've got to read this book. This series is getting really good. Then book 3 comes out and then more and more people start talking about it. So you can build up word of mouth very quickly, especially when you combine that with the fact that the algorithms tend to love rapid release. So all of that sounds really encouraging, like, yes, Sarah, I am all in. Let's rapid release these books. But hold on just a minute. There are a lot of people talking about the benefits of rapid release, but what I've found is that very few people are talking about the dangers of rapid releasing your books, because there are some very real dangers that you need to take into consideration. So let's talk about what's not so good about rapid release. So there are actually a lot more cons than what you might realize. One of them being that, let's say you're not a super fast writer and your plan is to actually write a bunch of books, like take the next year or 2 or even 3, I've heard some people saying, to pre-write 5 or 6 books or more so that you can make this rapid release splash. So what's happening here is you are investing a ridiculous amount of time, money, and energy into a series that is as yet totally unproven. So what I mean by that is readers haven't had a chance to read your book 1 and you're already planning to work on 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Well, sometimes a book series will start, and even though you've got the algorithms behind you and all that other thing, none of the rapid release strategy guarantees that readers are going to love your series. Maybe it's not going to be right for the market right now. Maybe it's just not going to be on trend. Maybe there's something about your heroine people don't like. So let's say you are going to write 8 books and it's going to take you 2 years to write them. So you write these 8 books, you spend all this time working on it. In the meantime, because you're going to rapid release these books every 30 days, you're going to release a new book. You also have to go ahead before you're making any money and invest in cover art and edits, and maybe even some advertising to launch that first book or whatever you're going to do. So you're spending quite a bit of time. And if this is your very first book or your first series of books, you might also be investing in things like a new computer or software for your business, a new website. There's going to be a lot of upfront costs, and you're not making any money yet because you're holding all those books back. Now, it might pay off for you in a huge way to have all 8 books of those splash the scene and all come out within 8 months of each other. However, you're taking a huge risk here because maybe you've just put in $10,000 and 2 years of your time, and book 1 launches and you get either crickets because people are kind of not into that genre or whatever else, but potentially a lot of bad reviews that say something like, I don't really get into this heroine. She's kind of annoying me. Or, oh, I did not like this romance. That romance was so unrealistic. And now you find out that there are fundamental flaws in book 1 of that series that you've just spent 2 years of your life and $10,000 getting together. You haven't proven that series. You haven't really shown readers what that series is all about. You're putting all your chips into it, hoping and maybe even naively believing that because you're using this rapid release strategy that it's just going to catapult you to instant fame. But the truth is that even really talented writers sometimes will not hit the mark when it comes to a series that resonates or a heroine that people like. One of the benefits of, say, releasing 1 or 2 books rapidly and then slowing down as you're writing them is that you get a chance to get reader feedback on that. Now, if you're holding books back, of course, you can get editor feedback, you can get beta reader or critique reader feedback, but that's still not the same thing as releasing that book to the public at large and seeing what takes off or what doesn't. Plus, if you don't know if you're a great writer or not, and you haven't really tested the waters to see if people resonate with your fiction, and you haven't really spent a lot of time, say, editing your book, or you're trying to do things in a cheaper way by not using an editor, you could spend 2 or 3 years of your life writing a series that frankly isn't very good, and you won't even know it and know where you need to improve because you're holding those books back for rapid release. And this is a big danger. I think that a lot of people, like I said, believe that because they're using this strategy that has worked for many people, that their books are naturally going to take off and it's going to be the one thing that makes the whole difference. But that's why I want to talk about these dangers that, you know, until that series is proven, like for example, I have several series. My Shadow Demon saga has sold 500,000 copies. It's super, super popular. But on the other hand, I'm working on book 3 right now of a series that is a zombie witch, you know, apocalyptic fantasy that honestly has never taken off. I'm rebranding it. I'm putting out the last book in the series and kind of going to give it one last hurrah. I didn't use rapid release strategy, but that book, even though it has good reviews, that series has not really taken off. And I think part of it is because my core readership maybe isn't that interested in zombies. Plus, it's multiple POV, it's third person point of view. So maybe some of those things have been things my readers or the types of readers that I'm aiming for don't really love. Well, what if I had spent 5 years working on 8 books in that series and put it out only to find that it does not sell? That is a huge risk, and not just the time involved, but the amount of money that I would have had to spend just to launch that series off the ground. So that can be a huge risk. And for me, this is actually the biggest risk. So be careful that you don't fall prey to this idea that because I'm using this strategy, it's going to make everything work, because your series might not work, your heroine might not work, and you won't know it until after you've spent all this time and all this money. Another risk is that you might be losing a certain magical element of word of mouth and anticipation for your readers. Now, when you rapid release at the beginning of a series, you get momentum going with word of mouth, and it's great. But when you release, say, 5 books in a series and they all came out within 3 or 4 months, you don't give readers time to really like soak that up and start telling their friends before it's already over and the momentum is gone. So what you're going to see in that case, sorry if you can hear the plane going overhead, what you're going to see in that case is a really big spike potentially and then a complete drop off, because you're not giving people time to anticipate that last book in a series or that next thing coming. Like, think back to some of your favorite traditionally published series and having to wait like a year or 6 months for that next book to come out. And you talked to people, you got on forums, you got on social media, you read it again, you read it again, you read it again, you talked to your friends, and there's all this momentum building. Well, when you have 5 books in a series and they all come out on the same day and there's nothing next coming after it except a new series that you're going to take 2 years off to write, you miss out on that anticipation and that excitement. Now, for some people, you think it's okay to miss out on that because I will have this huge spike in the beginning, and that may be your strategy for your career. However, I personally feel, and this is something not a lot of authors talk about, and maybe it's just my opinion, but I personally feel that reader loyalty, true reader loyalty, is what is going to get you to the type of career where you are making 6 figures consistently year after year after year. So instead of just having that spike where readers read your 5 books and then move on to the next series, like they binge read you, but they're not spending a lot of time with you. They're just spending like a weekend binge reading all 5 of your books, and then you have nothing else to offer them because they all came out really fast. They're not anticipating, they're not waiting, they're not thinking about you. They just read it all at once, and now next weekend they're going to move on to somebody else's series. The danger there is that that reader, you didn't hook them in to be a loyal reader for life. Sure, you got their $10 or their KU page reads, but you didn't capture them to be your loyal reader, ride or die, no matter what you have coming out next. However, when you have readers that are, willing to wait, like if you have readers that binge read the first 3 or 4 books and they're waiting on book 5 for a couple months, you're always in the back of their mind thinking, ooh, let me check on that next book. Let me see how it's going. And then book 5 comes out and they loved it. Now they're waiting for book 6. And then you become a part of their lives for the next 5 or 6 years as they're reading through your series. So I think that when you rapid release something and drop it all really, really fast, but you don't have a long-term game plan for what comes next, or that series is over really fast, sometimes you can miss out on the truly loyal readers, which also brings up this thought that I think a lot of people don't really go through in their minds when they're planning rapid release is what comes next for you. Because anybody can take a extended period of time and write multiple books. Like maybe it'll take you 8 years to write 8 books, but you could sit back and write those 8 books and hold them and then launch them all in 1 year if you wanted to. But then what comes next? If it takes you a year to write a book, you're going to launch those 8 books, and then you're going to have at least a year, if not another 8 years of waiting while you write your next series. So your career would look something like this, where you're going deeper and deeper into the hole as you prepay for all of these covers and everything. And then maybe a big spike as those 8 books come out, and then it's just going to go right back to where it was. And you're not going to see that consistency of momentum because you launched everything and then you had nothing else to offer them. So back when I was talking about what Lilliana Hart did, she rapid released those books, but she was very smart in that she was thinking beyond that. What comes next for her? She had a book in the hole, so to speak. So she would rapid release those books, but she had another book ready to go, and she waited a little bit of time. Now that she's got those readers interested, she kept them on the hook for a little bit of time before she launched that next book. And while she was holding on to that next book, she was writing the next one. So she was kind of always ahead. I don't know if that's where she is now still anymore. Lilliana, if you ever get a hold of these videos, let us know in the comments. I doubt she watches my videos, but that was a very smart business strategy. So if you are thinking about doing a rapid release strategy, I implore you to think about what is your long-term plan for that. Because what I see a lot of people doing is pre-writing a bunch of books that takes them 2 or 3 years. And then when they start launching them, they're not holding anything back. And so they think that what they're going to do is they're going to launch a book a month, and during those 8 months that those books are coming out, they're going to write the next one, right? But what happens is, if you're used to spending all of your time on the writing, the minute you get into launch mode and you're launching a new book every single month, you've got the promotions, the ads, the emails that are coming in, the fan social media, you've got all this business stuff you were never dealing with before, and it makes it really difficult to focus enough to write that next book. So you're going to go from having all your time to write the next book to having almost no time to write that next book. So it's foolish to think that you're going to take 2 years to write 8 books, and then you're going to write another 8 within those 8 months, or another 2 or 4 books within those 8 months when you're launching, because that launch period is going to be crazy. It's going to be distracting. It's going to be difficult writing time. It might be an emotional roller coaster because the sales aren't quite what you expected, or you're getting bad reviews. It's just going to be difficult to write. So you need to think about what's coming next and potentially hold even more books back and give that a little bit of leeway, a little bit of breathing room, so that you can think about how to sustain your career long term. Another downside that people don't often talk about is when you rapid release your books that fast, boom, 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 you are cultivating a certain kind of reader. You're cultivating the kind of reader that, like I said, enjoys binge reading content and then moving on to the next thing. It's a special type of voracious reader that will, is always looking for those big chunks of things to read, because they may read like 200 or 300 books a year. But what you're doing is you're training that reader that, hey, I come out with a book every month. Look for my book. Guess what? A new book every month on the 10th. The same way that hopefully you've been looking forward to my videos every Thursday or every so often, once a week. But when you are putting out books that quickly and then suddenly you drop off because, you've now got to go back and write new books because you didn't have them in the hole, or you aren't able to sustain the level or the speed at which you were writing before, suddenly, you may have a period of time where people think, oh, what happened to that author? Let me go check. And then they're not hearing from you. They're not hearing from you. They're not hearing from you. Where'd she go? And then you've cultivated a type of reader that is used to moving on to the next thing and the next thing, and they read things very quickly. So it's going to happen that a lot of readers are going to drop off much faster than they would have if you were giving them books consistently over time. Because if that reader only spent like 1 week with you or 2 months with you, they're going to be a lot less loyal. So unless you can sustain that level, the minute you drop off and you're publishing more slowly, a lot of those readers are going to drop off too. So you would have spent years in the making to build momentum that you can't sustain. And that is a very real danger. Another big danger is burnout. So even if you think, I can write 8 books in 2 years or whatever the number is, if you haven't had any positive feedback within those 2 years, you're going to have put everything you have into it. And you're going to have this whirlwind of a time as you're launching this book, a roller coaster of emotions that is very often going to lead to burnout. Another well-known author recently came out and said that she's going to take an indefinite break because she loves writing, but for the past several years has not been able to write her own books because she couldn't keep up with the demands of rapid release schedule. And not only was she not able to write her own books and was having to more manage her ghostwriters, her team of ghostwriters, but she had gained an extreme amount of weight and was extremely depressed. So it didn't matter that the money was coming in or that the fans were coming in. She was unhappy. And I think a lot of times we don't talk about this in indie publishing. We talk about the money, the marketing, the strategy, and all that stuff, but we don't talk about, are you happy doing this? Because in my opinion, none of it matters if you're not happy and joyful. There are so many jobs that you could do out there. There are so many things you could do with your life that you could just punch the clock, come home, do what you want to do, have a happy life with your family. If all you care about is making money, there are lots of ways to make money. If you're going to be a writer because you love to write, then put your heart and soul into it and don't give that up because you're so worried about how much money am I making? How successful am I? I need to hustle, or comparing yourself to other people and thinking that you have to release your books really, really fast to be relevant. There is no doubt that releasing your books more quickly right now in today's market as an indie is beneficial to your career. It absolutely is in so many ways, but it's not worth it if you're just going to burn out or if you're going to write crappy books because you're writing too fast. And that, of course, please don't take it as me saying that people who write fast are writing crappy books, because that's not the truth for everyone. But for me, for example, if I tried to write 10 books in a year, there is no way those books would be quality books because I am not that fast of a writer. If you are, more power to you. But many people right now are writing beyond the level of sustainability because they're scared or they're trying to keep up or they're worried more about rapid release than they are about sustainable writing and a sustainable career. A final con that I'm going to mention real quick is just that, you know what? If you come up with a series of books that you think are like really going to be great, written to market, really going to be like, oh, this is the hot thing right now. And then it takes you even 6 months to a year to 2 years to write that series. Guess what? The market will have changed. So especially if you said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and get these covers and I'm going to strategize and, brainstorm the actual series based on how the market is right now in 2020. And that series isn't going to come out till 2023. you're already going to be behind. Now, with traditional publishing, things are different because it does sometimes take a year or two for those books to get published. But trad pub is a completely different animal than indie publishing. And readers who read indie books are often very different from the readers who read traditional published books. There are, of course, some who read both, but a lot of indie readers are on to different market trends very, very quickly. So if you come up with an entire series now and you dedicate your entire life over the next 3 years to writing it, chances are, especially if you were trying to write to trend, that by the time you get those books out, the trends will have changed and you will have just spent 3 years writing something that is no longer viable in the market, at least not the way that you originally expected. Now, as we close up, I just want to give you what I personally would recommend, because I think that rapid release is still a great way to launch your career. I highly recommend this idea of rapid releasing, meaning 30, 60, or 90 days for your first 3 books. So like maybe book 1 comes out now, in 60 days, book 2 comes out, in 60 days after that, book 3 comes out. So within the course of these 120 days, you've had 3 books out. Then after book 3 in your series, if it is a longer series, you can start to space things out 3, 4, or whatever amount of months it means for you to keep a sustainable and joyful career for yourself. I think that is a much better strategy. For some people, what's sustainable for you is to continue to put out a new book every 2 months or a new book every single 30 days. But if you know that you are just not able to write quality books at that level of 30 days a piece or 60 days a piece, then don't try to do it. Don't try to hold back so many books that you could release a book every month or whatever, if it's not going to be sustainable long term. For me, I think my realistic schedule would be 4 books a year. Maybe that's going to be pushing it with my baby at home. So maybe 3 books a year is going to be my max for a while until she's in school. So for me to try to come up with a rapid release schedule that puts me, at 10 books a year, I already know I'm going to be burned out or putting out books that aren't quality. So think about what's your sustainable pace, like realistically, what's your sustainable place, and then come up with a strategy, especially if you're just launching a career or a series, that gets those first 2 or 3 books out quickly and then spread them out to the level of sustainable writing for yourself, where you're going to be able to take care of your mental health and continue to enjoy writing your books. I know that right now, many of us, in terms of indie publishing, if you're really into reading about it, seeing what other people are doing, we feel the pressure to write fast. But I just want to be a voice here to tell you that though there can be a lot of pros to putting out books quickly or to writing fast, in the end, none of it matters if you're burned out, if you're sick, if you put yourself into a terrible, terrible depression. It doesn't matter how fast books come out, because you're going to end up leaving the writing career altogether or disappearing for a while. I see it happen over and over and over again. Find what is sustainable for you. Stop comparing yourself to everyone else. Stop listening to stories or telling yourself stories that if I don't write faster, everything's going to fall apart, because that's not serving you. All that's doing is making you, get tensed up and scared of everything. Try to let go of the fear that I have to write really fast, and if I don't, everything's going to fall apart. And instead, start getting back to the joy of writing, figuring out what you really want to do that's sustainable and joyful for you, and release at that schedule. If you can hold a few books back, I say 2 or 3 is plenty to rapid release, like 30, 60, or 90 days apart, those first 3 books, and then space it out to the level of your own personal sustainability. Sure, you may not find as much of a spike of success as some of these people that are putting out 10 books a year or 10 books in a month or whatever they're doing, but you will find a sweet spot of success for yourself where you're not going to burn out and you're not going to fall into depression. And let me tell you, that is important. So always pay attention to your own joy and your own mental health. All right, guys, that's all I have to say for now about rapid release. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit controversial, but let me know in the comments what you think of this. I know that I will definitely be planning to do a similar type of release schedule with the first 3 books, rapid releasing and then spacing it out when I'm able to start my new series, either at the end of this year or next year. So hopefully you'll subscribe and we'll keep in touch with each other, and I will cover how that stuff is going as my career progresses. Also, if you are super interested in the types of things I'm talking about here, with not only how to develop a publishing schedule or strategy that works for you, but how to write and get your business together and publish your books in a way where you thrive and you do put joy at the forefront, but you also find a way to truly make money writing what you love and having that balance between joy and marketing. If you are interested in that, my Publish and Thrive self-publishing course is open for enrollment for just a few more days. We start on Monday, February 10th, and this is a 5-week course. If you want to read more about it, you can go to my link down in the description box and find the page where I've got all the information about how it works. Every Monday for 5 weeks, a new module drops with a new subject, and every week we go deep dive into that subject. Then on Thursday every week, you get a 2-hour Q&A and office hours session with me where we will talk live and I will answer your questions about that week's content. So that goes on for 5 weeks, and I would absolutely love for you to join us. So check out that link in the description box below and make sure that you're subscribed to this channel, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.